YZ125 piston change for you. This will help you on many other bikes as well. Watch and learn. Ooh, it looks very nice. It won't start right over. Just a little tap, tap, tap. So nothing like this ever. You're tempted to, but don't ever do that. You're gonna do some damage. Now I can pull cylinder right off, like an 8T handle. It smells so good. Just gonna clean up the head. So in here you can see that the power valves are working just fine. And you don't want to scratch your surface, just like we were talking about with the screwdriver and prying. And I'm gonna put a little bit on those residual gaskets right there. I'm gonna come back to it in a minute. The ring, if it has a letter, I like to have it facing up. Now I'm gonna go right here to where that little ring pin is. There's a little groove. I'm gonna butt up that one there and then just walk on the ring just like that. We just finished the piston install, and here's all the tools and parts we used. So I thought I'd put this at the beginning of the video so you could see kind of what it takes. We got a torque wrench, a ratchet, 12mm socket. We got our 12mm wrench box in, 21 for the spark plug, 8, 10, 12, 6mm, 8mm nut drivers, a scraper, little dikes, pliers. We have our gaskets. We put new gaskets in. We use some silicone on the pipe. We got our spark plug, our new Wiseco piston. We had some Klotz assembly lube. We used some blaster when we were cleaning up the gasket surfaces. We used some grease in a couple spots, and we used contact cleaner a bunch of times. So that's a good look at everything. Oh, Allen wrench. We use the grip edge socket. So it takes a lot of tools to do a good job, but that's what we got. Okay, so pulling a top end off and doing the work is pretty easy. We're not going to go deep into pulling the power valve apart. In most cases, it's usually just fine if you're taking good care of your bike. We'll double check that when we're there. But we're going to pull the plastic off, drain the coolant, and then get right to the top end. We'll give you some tips on how to do it. We're going to pull the seat off. With the tank, I'm going to pull the tank off. I kind of like to leave as much together as possible, leaving the shrouds on. Just going to pry the fuel line off and pull the tank completely off. Set those aside. Keep an eye that you don't set too much pressure on the fuel line when you have your tank sitting off to the side. Draining the coolant can make a mess, so I have a little procedure. I like to have some dirty rags laying around, and I can drain the coolant on this thing. Exhaust pipe, I like to loosen all the mounts when I take the pipe off, so I loosen all the mounts up, and then I can remove the pipe, get it out of the way. I've also loosened up the radiator to where I don't hopefully have to take it off. If I don't have to take it off or just take off one side, I like to make my work less if I can avoid it. So I really got in here, blew in here, and I blew up high into the frame rails so that there wouldn't be stuff falling down into the engine while we had the cylinder and head off. This bike's very simple. Since it's a case reed motor, the carburetor sits right here. You don't even have to touch it if you don't want to, and you can get right to the cylinder and head. On many other bikes, this carburetor goes right into the cylinder. On those bikes, what we do is loosen this clamp right here at the reed cage, loosen that clamp, loosen the subframe, take the top subframe bolts out, loosen the bottom ones, and then you could just push on the rear fender and you could get it to pop out. And that would leave you enough room to pull the cylinder up. That's what we like to do, so it's a lot less work. And then at that time, you can work on your cylinder. Also, if you do want to clean the carburetor, that could be a good time to pull the carburetor out, work on the carburetor, clean it, do whatever you're going to do, put it back in before you put the cylinder on. And then when you have it back in this back boot tight, got your cylinder back on, you could push this forward and feed that carburetor back into the intake. I'm loosening up hose clamps. I like to use a nut driver rather than the Phillips on here because those get rounded off. You can't torque them as well. Then I'm going to pull this clamp out of the way. And you see I've got the spark plug cap out of the way. I've pulled the spark plug off, and it's a good time to inspect the spark plug. Many times it's a good time to probably put a new spark plug in at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. I could leave this hose on the bike, but sometimes I find that it's a little easier just to remove some of this stuff out of the way. We're going to remove this power valve cover, and that's what happens here. So we'll get this cover off. As you can see, here's our arm. So we're going to take this bolt off. There's actually a tool that Yamaha has, a spacer, but I don't know if I have the right one, but I'll give you some tips when we reinstall it. You don't want to put too much pressure on this mechanism, so you just put something here to brace it against this arm when you tighten it. Spacer right here. So some bikes will have that. I just want to grab it right now so that nothing falls off when I go to pull the cylinder off. I like to get all the washers. Now, some of them don't have washers, but most of them have a type of washer. And it's a crush washer. Look, it looks very nice. It won't start, Ratto. I have to use a 6-point wrench on this kind of stuff so that you don't risk as much chance of rounding off the nuts. Just like Ratto does. And just a little tap, tap, tap. Not with a steel hammer, but a dead blow. So you can kind of loosen it up. I don't want guys breaking their cylinder. Okay, so now when it won't come off, you get a screwdriver here and pry it up just like this. Is that the right way, Ratto? So this is what we've seen over the years, and guys will ruin this surface and this surface. So you don't ever pry on any sealing surfaces on your bike ever. So nothing like this ever. You're tempted to, but don't ever do that. You're gonna do some damage. So you can just tap it with that hammer. Okay, so just tapping as I was lifting. So now what I was afraid of, my cylinder's not gonna clear the radiator hose, so I'm gonna have to pull one of the radiators off. So I have to not be lazy, as Ratto says, because Ratto asked me, are you gonna take radiators off? So I had to take one clamp off, tucked it out of the way, and it's not too bad. Now I can pull cylinder right off. Okay, so I'm gonna pull the little circlip out of here. Very simple, just like that. On this bike, I can push the wrist pin out with like an 8T handle. I think on the 250s, it's a 10T handle in my scientific approach.
What you doing, dude?
It smells so good. Oh. Just gonna clean up the head. Get that all ready for reinstall. Tom Morgan just cleaned this up for us when we had it apart a few years ago, when it was brand new. And this generation YZ125 22 is a newer, little bit updated cylinder head and carburetor. Runs really good. We have the JD jetting kit in there. That thing runs good, huh, Ratto?
No, amazing. Love it.
The jetting's good? Okay, so head's ready. Okay, so in here you can see that the power valves are working just fine. And if I go in here in the cylinder, I can see that they're moving well. They're not carboned up and shut at all. And so that's what I was hoping for and figured that was the case. We're running clean. There's some really thick like castor oils that would gum up and they could get stuck. And we've definitely seen that, especially on bigger bikes, 250s and bigger. So now I'm just gonna contact clean it out, get any dirt that's fallen in there, get any of that out of there. So I'm gonna lift up the stock gasket. I'm taking my time so that I don't leave too much of it on here. It's nice not to have to take too much off. And you don't want to scratch your surface, just like we were talking about with the screwdriver and prying. You don't want to scratch this surface at all. And right here's the hottest spot of the engine here. That's where it tends to stick the most. Razor blade that I can just scrape all this stuff off. Okay, we got some PB Blaster here, which is really thick, good stuff. And I'm gonna put a little bit on those residual gaskets right there. I'm gonna come back to it in a minute. And I'm also gonna soak this rusted stud. There's one stud that got some rust on her. And I'm gonna just soak that up a little bit. I'm gonna come back with just a wire brush and hit it or something. So this piston already has the circlip in. I put it in last time a few years ago and forgot about it. So I like to just hold it with some dikes like this, some old ones that are dull. And I can just grab it on the end and just walk it around and walk it in there. And then once it's in the groove and seated well, I can come here and push on the clip. Watch it right here, it's in the groove. I can push it back and it'll turn in the groove. There it goes, and it turns right back. And I can see that it's fully seated. And you can only, in this case, I would say it's about 30-40% of it standing proud above the groove. And that's how you want to know that when you put your wrist pin in. And sometimes when you're on the bench putting the circlip in, you can have this wrist pin in to butt against there to help you get a little bit more of a good fit. Our ring, we guys talk about ring end gap, and it's on the Wiseco paperwork as well. You can put your piston in the cylinder just like this, and you can use the piston to push it down like maybe an inch or so into the cylinder so it's flat. And this is the gap you're referring to, and right there I can see that it's about 12 to 14 thousandths, so it looks really good. And if you need to, you check it with feeler gauges, but I'm telling you right now, 98% of the time you don't need to touch it with the stock one or the Wiseco. And if you're going to make it larger, you would just pull the ring apart like this, grab a little stone, and just touch each side like that right there, and you make it a tiny bit bigger. I wouldn't use a file because it can be grabby, so a stone works really well. Use a little bit of assembly lube. Klotz has a good one here, just something like that around the ring groove so that it'll be really good on startup, well lubricated. The ring, if it has a letter, I like to have it facing up. Now I'm going to go right here to that where that little ring pin is. There's a little groove. I'm going to butt up that one there and then just walk on the ring just like that. Now that ring groove will stop the ring from turning. Now when it's not collapsed, it just goes right over it. And if you hold it down, you can see how it won't go down right here. If you go to where the ring pin is, now I can hold it tight, and it's all really good and tight against the piston. You could drop it in the cylinder, but I wouldn't do it when it's not on the bike because you don't want to risk it catching in a port and damaging your ring. A little bit more lube on the pin. We have our new gasket kit, and this is the stock gasket. It's already been crushed pretty hard. I like to just measure them just to be sure. Now, if you're reading a stock gasket versus a stock gasket, you're pretty confident they're going to be the same, but on whatever bike you're doing, and I'll collapse my calipers down pretty tight, so we're like at 21 thousandths. That's like a little over half a millimeter for you metric guys. And on the Cometic, we're right at about 20. Yeah, it's right on the money. So I'd say we're totally good. What I like about these is they come off a whole lot easier than this. They don't glue down as bad. Work really well with this AFM material. Okay, I'm going to drop my gasket on. Now, you can see a couple of these studs are fairly corroded. That's kind of normal. Nothing to fret about. Let me get a tiny bit of grease on my fingers and put some grease, especially on the lower part of those. And then on this one, where there's a dowel pin, a collar guide, I'm going to put it on there as well. And that'll help prevent anything worse in the future. If you wanted to wire brush these off, you could. Just going to be a lot of junk that's going to fall into here, so you would need to have this all well taped off if you're going to do that. A little bit of the lube on our top end bearing as well. I change this every other time. You could do it every time. We've never had one fail, knock on wood, so work really well. Now I'm going to push the wrist pin all the way through. I got a T-handle over here just to push so it's fully against the other side. So I got my cool little wire cutters and I'm going to walk it on. I got it 3/4 the way in there. Now it just popped in, but it's not fully seated yet, I don't believe. And I will probably need to get on my higher power glasses to make 100% sure it's in. But now I'm going to go feel it all the way around, and I'm going to walk it with some with my little Pokemons and see that it turns. Okay, so it turns pretty good, and here it is in the groove. I'm going to push it back. Yeah, it's really good, feels great. This is very important to take your time. Installing this circuit correctly is one of the most important things to a two-stroke rebuild. So if it happens to come out, if you don't get it in there correctly, if it's too collapsed, if it's bent, if you reuse an old one and it comes out, it's going to wipe out that cylinder and just ruin it for you. So there's a lot of guys who are going to be bummed, and they're going to try anything they can to use an old one or whatever so they can ride the next day. If you have a damaged one, I would not reuse it. When you order a new piston, it's a good idea to order an extra circlip so you have it and you're safe for future rebuilds. They don't cost hardly anything. Also, I failed to mention, when you put the piston in, nearly all two-stroke pistons have an arrow facing the exhaust. That's how you remember. In this case, we have two little exhaust, holes on the exhaust bridge. So, but you have an arrow, that's going to help you out so you don't put it in backwards, and that does happen, unfortunately. So I took this side over to my wire wheel, which was easy, and then I'll just get this with a brush just a tiny bit. Not a critical deal, but nice to get some of that off. So now with that PB soaking on there, stuff just comes right off. We have our O-ring here. We had a brand new one. We do reuse the stock ones sometimes. I put a thin layer of grease, and that'll kind of help keep it in place while you're dropping the head on. So I'm going to drop a little bit of this assembly lube into the cylinder. Now that I've cleaned it really well, wiped it down, I'm going to get it all in here really well, just like that. Okay, now on a single ring 125, it's pretty easy to get the piston on in the cylinder. I'm collapsing the ring with one hand with my left hand while I'm guiding it down. Okay, there it goes. I got it started, and I want to make sure I stay straight as I drop it down. Make sure everything's out of my way. And I can kind of rock it down, and I'm 95% all the way down right now. I could give it a little tap to make sure it gets over those collars. I like to push the piston up to the top just in case I was to drop anything, that it's not going to go anywhere. And make sure everything feels good. I'm going to get all the nuts on by hand. Start all those. So it's a pretty easy process, as you can see. All right, so now I'm going to tighten these up. Again, I'm using that 6-point wrench. And these are about 20 foot-pounds, which for Rado would be about half of his strength. For me, it's about 89% of my arm strength. Right there, okay? There. So just good and you can kind of feel when the boat, when it's correct on these base nuts. We do properly torque the top ones on the head, but the base ones just get a good feel. It's nothing crazy. And I just keep bouncing between them as I get a good feel. And I'm gonna go to this one. So now on this bike, we're going to put that collar, that spacer back. And see how there's a groove? Right here, it's keyed. So this has to be in a certain position. It has to be right there to go on. Most bikes have a different power valve setup, how it hooks on. Some of them have a little clip, a wire clip. Some have a bolt. And there it goes. I just pushed it on. Now we're fully seated and correct. Now the bolt has a little washer. And I'm going to tighten this up just like this. I found a tool. I just got the used wrist pin, and that's going to kind of wedge in here and hold it while I just snug this up. You could easily break that, so just good and snug. If you wanted to put a little bit of low thread locker on there, you could as well. So again, I got something to brace it so I'm not extending out that arm. It's locked, and I can just snug it just like that. And if you want to see how well it works, you can just go like this. It's working, feels good. This little cover has proven to be one of the tougher parts of the job. So I just wanted to make sure I'm fully in here. On some bikes like the KTMs, you need to silicone those in. I don't see any need on this bike because it has a seal going in here. To get it into this rubber piece and keep the gasket lined up was just a little bit of a chore. It wasn't too bad for an old guy with glasses on. And this is as tight as it needs to be, just like with this. You don't need a T-handle on here. It's like just a screwdriver handle. Plenty tight enough, just like that. And I made sure those O-rings stayed where they were, and we got good seal right there. We're ready to go. Okay, we got new washers in the kit, the gasket kit from Cometic, which is nice. So we're gonna drop those on, just like that. I have reused them plenty of times. It's nice to have new ones on. So now with my ratchet, I'm just gonna get them snug. And this is where people freak out if you don't go in a certain pattern, but as long as you're rotating around the thing, you're fine. And it's just getting snug. Okay, so now this one's just barely snug. I'm gonna bounce over to here. Snug, snugger, snugger. Let's go here, snugger. Now we're gonna set up our torque wrench. 19, 19.5, 20. I like my old school torque wrench. Spencer likes the digital one. And I'm gonna bounce from there to this furthest one. And go over to here. And over to here. Isn't that a cool sound? Just gonna double check. Same way around. And that's gonna be about it, right? There. Okay, top end's about done. I'm gonna put the spark plug in. I'm gonna put our power valve vent hose back on that I took off before. Put our radiators back on, engine hangers back on right here, and we'll come back and report. We got our radiators reattached, our coolant back in. We went ahead and put a brand new spark plug. It's nice to do that if you can. We tighten up the head stays. It's a good idea to keep track of where your cables were run, which I kind of paid attention to. But if you have any questions, always take a photo or video of how anything's run when you're getting too deep into your bike if you're not familiar with it. The O-rings that were there were pretty dried up. The Cometic kit came with 2 brand new ones. We put those on. I put a little bit of silicone on there to help seal it up a little bit better so it's not leaking as bad on Rado. When I put the pipe on, I like to make sure that all the bolts are loose. I get the pipe springs on, guide on, and then I go tighten up all 4 points that I can between the mounts. Now we're gonna throw the tank on this thing and hopefully fire it up real quick. Smells good. It's like a Cheech and Chong movie in here. But we just got it started right up, no problem. So we're gonna go break it in. Lots of theories on break in, okay? Heat cycles, do this, do that. Just take it easy. Guys will want it to idle right there for a long time. You don't gotta do all that. Just warm it up for 35, 40 seconds like you would at the track, ride it around at pit speeds. We'll go do it. That's it. She's broken in. It's ready to go. Let's get Rado riding this thing around a bit too. Hey, what do you think of that?
I have tears in my eyes. Feels amazing, man. Wow. It makes me want to go back on 125s and just enjoy them on a track. That's all good about that.
Fully broken in, feels great, as a 2-stroke should. 2 strokes, they like a fresh rebuild. Also, sometimes a fresh clutch if the guy's a little hard on it. So, really cool bike. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It helps you out on your rebuilds. See you guys next time. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Have fun.